Hi guys, my name is Escarla. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, this is my little crafty corner of the internet where I like to document my making. Mostly that's like crocheting, knitting, spinning, mostly a lot of fiber arts related content. If you are a returning viewer, hello! I've missed you guys. Sorry it's been so long since I've been on here, but I kind of had a baby, which you might hear in the background. He's sleeping, but he likes to make funny sounds while he's sleeping. But yeah, like I said, the past few months I've been busy making a baby, and I'm so happy to say that he is finally here with us. His name is Arthur, and he's super cute and chill, and his personality's starting to show through, and he's really silly. So yeah, I'm really thrilled to be a new mom, and I'm really excited to just be back to making content, to having that energy back to make videos and to make things that I want to make. But yeah, all that being said, I'm really excited to be back and making videos. I've really missed you guys. I hope you're still here. Like, it's really felt like a lifetime since I made a video, but I guess it was like 3 months ago. As you can see from the title of the video, I've kept myself quite busy while I was away making a lot of things for my baby. I spent a lot of time on Ravelry, like trying to find really cute patterns that would go with, like, I guess my style and what I foresee to be his style. This would be a collection of all of my finished objects that I've made. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing I made was my midwife blanket, and you guys probably already saw this a couple videos back. I finished this quite early in my pregnancy, but here it is again. It is the midwife blanket pattern. I actually don't know who designed this. This is one of those vintage patterns that was super popular in like the 60s and such. I'm sure it was probably published in some sort of magazine and made its rounds and then became a really popular design. So yeah, I'm not sure who designed this, but this is one of those classic vintage patterns. A few months back, actually probably like a year ago, I got really into this show called Call the Midwife. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, but if you're not, it follows a group of midwives back in like the 50s and 60s in England, and it is full of really, really cute baby knits and honestly just knitwear in general. There's a lot of beautiful like sweaters and cardigans and, like I said, baby knits. So this was one of the patterns that was featured on that show. I believe it was in the first season, if not the second. So pretty early on, I saw this design and fell in love with it. And actually, I was also watching Outlander. This was also like a while back, but there was also a clip of a baby with the same design. So I really wanted to knit something, I really wanted to crochet something like that was more vintage inspired. At the time, I didn't know the gender of my baby or anything, so I didn't want to choose a yarn that wasn't kind of just gender neutral and classic. So I went with this color. So this is Lion Brand's Pound of Love in the colorway of Barley, and I really like the color because it's kind of like a grayish off-white color. It's not quite white. It's not too creamy, which I don't love, like a yellowy cream, which is very popular back in the day. So this color is quite perfect, and I don't think I even used up one ball of Pound of Love. So I did use a YouTube video to reference the pattern, and it was Fiber Spider's midwife blanket pattern. So that was really helpful with just getting the motif figured out. And then for the border, I used another video. It was by Joanna Martinez or Joanna Martinez, one of the two. And I used her video for the border because I really liked this kind of scalloped edge. And yeah, it was really easy to make, such a breeze. I love that baby things are so quick. So I highly recommend this pattern. I will link everything I talk about down below, as well as my Ravelry bundle that I made for all of the baby knits so that you guys can reference that. But yeah, that is my midwife blanket. So after making the blanket, I decided to make some socks, and here those are. They're really cute and tiny. And these socks were made with a free pattern. So it's Kate Atherley's baby socks. And Kate Atherley is like the sock knitting queen. She has this book called Custom Socks Knit to Fit Your Feet or something like that. I'll put a picture here. But that book was a lifesaver when I first got into knitting socks like a few years back. And yeah, the way she describes things is very easy to understand. And I highly recommend that book if you want to learn a little bit more about sock construction and knitting to fit your feet. But yeah, this is one of her free patterns on Ravelry, and they're super easy and quick to make. Obviously, they're super small, so you can probably get it done in a day if all you do is knit them. But I would say like a sock a day is really manageable, and I got these done really, really quickly. This was my second time making these socks. I made them once before for a coworker's baby, and I ended up using some of my scrap leftover yarn from a previous project. This is Life in the Long Grass in the colorway. Do I know the colorway? Let me check. No, I don't know the colorway. I bought this yarn quite a long time ago, I would say like before the pandemic, and I had made my husband a pair of socks with the same yarn. So I thought it would be cute to use that same leftover yarn to make the baby some socks. I really like this colorway. It's a very like, obviously like nature inspired colors, which I think a lot of Life in the Long Grass colorways are, but it has this like kind of stone pebble inspired colors. Like it reminds me of the stones you might find at like a creek or something. So yeah, I made those. They fit them really well and they're quite stretchy, so I feel like you can use them for a while. I love the kind of longer cuff because they're able to stay on quite well, and they also provide a lot of warmth if he's just wearing like a onesie with no like pants. So yeah, highly recommend that pattern, and it's totally free, so definitely check that out. So after I made the socks, I thought it would be really cute to have a hat to match. I initially was gonna knit a full hat in that same Life in the Long Grass colorway, but I knew that I was running into some yarn chicken and it could potentially run out of yarn while doing that. So I decided to keep an eye out for a striped pattern. Obviously, I could have striped any hat pattern that I found, but I wanted to just find something that was already striped so that I can visualize what it would look like. So I ended up going with this pattern called Bits and Pieces by Vera Valimaki. I hope I am saying that right, or I'm probably butchering it like with my American pronunciation, but it's a really, really cute pattern. It has these little I-cord ties, so it keeps the hat in place, which is actually quite helpful. I didn't realize how easily things fall off of a newborn, like hats and socks and such. So this actually came in clutch. Highly recommend these little tie kind of designs. It is knit with short row shaping. You knit it all in one piece and then you do the short row shaping up top here. So I found the pattern to be quite easy to follow, and the short rows are always kind of fun to do. I ended up stash diving for a color that would work with the Life in the Long Grass, and I found this Cascade 220 fingering yarn. It's like a hunter green color. I don't know the colorway either because it's also like just leftover yarn from a project. I really love how these colors turned out, and I kind of want to make like a sweater or something in these kind of colors. So that was the hat that I decided to make. It's all garter stitch, so it's quite stretchy, but it does fit him now. So hopefully he'll get some more wear out of it since he's only 3 weeks old right now, but I have a pretty big head and so does my husband, so I think he inherited that big-headed trait. So hopefully this fits him for longer, but we'll see. This point in my baby knit making journey, I decided that I wanted to knit some garments, and it was actually a lot trickier than I thought because, well, first of all, I didn't know how big the baby was going to be, so I didn't want to make anything that wouldn't fit him or would only fit for a very short amount of time. So I decided to pretty much knit everything in like a 3 to 6 month size to be safe. And it was a little bit overwhelming, like finding patterns that I wanted to make, just because I don't know, there's just so much online and so many options to choose from. So like I mentioned earlier, I did make like a whole bundle of the baby knits that really caught my eye. So you guys can check that out if you're knitting for a baby or if you're planning to knit for a baby. I think that would be a helpful resource. I already did all of the filtering there for you, so definitely check that out below. So after making the hat and the socks and the blanket, I decided to go with Elizabeth Zimmerman's baby surprise jacket, and here that is. Da, 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 da. Do, 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 do. I love how this turned out. I think it's so cute, and I love the colors. So if you don't know, you probably do, but if you don't, Elizabeth Zimmerman is another one of those like knitting legends. She had, I believe she had a show on PBS, but she came out with a bunch of different books, and she used to write a lot of like knitting articles and such back in like the 60s, I believe. And this pattern's actually from 1968, so it is considered a vintage pattern. You might already be familiar with this garment. It is the most popular baby garment in the most projects made category of Ravelry. It's the first one. So a lot of people have made this, and there are a lot of projects to look at for inspo on Ravelry. But I ended up buying a few Elizabeth Zimmerman publications a couple years back when I wanted to do like an Elizabeth Zimmerman deep dive, which I really haven't done other than this pattern. So I got the pattern from her book Knitting Workshop. I believe it's out of print, but I found my copy used on Etsy. No, on eBay. So you can either purchase the book or you can just find the pattern online somewhere. I'm sure you could just purchase the individual pattern. But the pattern is written in a very interesting way, and I think a lot of vintage patterns happen to be written this way. This is officially my first vintage pattern. To me, 1968 doesn't seem like that long ago compared to like Victorian patterns and such, but the way it's written isn't the most clear compared to how patterns are written now. So she doesn't really give you an exact yarn to go with. She basically says if you have 6 stitches to an inch, that would be the right size for a newborn, and that's about it. So there really isn't that much hand-holding compared to like the way modern patterns are written. So I did some research on YouTube just to be extra safe because I didn't want to mess up this garment. But I found this whole playlist by a channel called Sew Magnolia, and they basically they walk you through the whole pattern. So the first introductory video in the playlist, which I'll link below, includes like different yarn sizes and what the gauge would be for that and what size it makes. So I actually ended up knitting mine with a worsted weight of yarn, which resulted in this size, which I would say is definitely more of like a 4+ month garment. It is fully garter stitched, so it is quite stretchy. So hopefully he'll get a lot of use out of this. But I knit this in Lion Brand's Mandala yarn in the colorway Warlock. And I did do some kind of ripping of the yarn to get to the next color, because if you see here, the purple section was getting quite wide, and so was the kind of turquoisey color there at the bottom. The pattern is constructed in a very interesting way. You basically I started the pattern here in this cream color. So you knit like a very odd shape. I'll put a picture here so you can see what that construction looks like. But you end up making like kind of this origami type shape that you end up folding and seaming at the top. This part here I connected at the end. And the pattern didn't mention this, but I did do an I-cord bind off at the neckline and button band. And then I picked up and did an I-cord bind off as well at the sleeves here to add that like yellow pop of color. So I really love how this turned out. I highly recommend this pattern. I used these really pretty like bone buttons that I got at Brooklyn General a few years back. And yeah, I'm super pleased. There is actually an adult version of this garment, which I would want to make in the future. I think the construction is really interesting, but also it's a very easy project. It's just garter stitch. So you're just basically knitting and increasing, or not, is it increasing? Yeah, I believe you increase here at the corner that you see right there. But yeah, I love, 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 love how this turned out. This is probably my top favorite out of everything that I made. I highly recommend giving this a shot if you haven't already. I will probably make this for like all the babies that I ever have to knit for, just because I really enjoyed the process. And I think it could look quite different depending what yarn you use. I think the color shifting yarn is definitely the way to go, so you can get like these cool blocks of color. And this would also look really awesome with some hand spun. So Elizabeth Zimmerman is totally worth the hype. I am really excited down the line to make a couple more of her designs, and then I'll probably do a video on my thoughts about her design process and all of that. Okay, so after the surprise jacket, I decided to knit a full-bodied outfit, and I found that Petite Knit really has quite the collection of baby and kid size patterns, and I decided to knit her Willem's overall pattern. Here it is. I knit this in Lion Brand's Superwash Merino in the colorway Paprika. And this is my first time knitting a Petite Knits garment. Something about her designs didn't really pull me in previously. I think it's because she makes a lot of wardrobe staples that I don't actually, let me take that back. I did make the Sophie scarf. I made a few of those. So that was super popular like a couple years back. And I did those for like gift knits, so I actually don't own any of them, but that was the first Petite Knits garment that I made. And then I made this. And yeah, the pattern was super clear. I really love how this turned out. My only modification was that I did like a half twisted rib instead of a regular rib, which is typically what I do when something calls for ribbing. I just feel like it looks a lot neater than a regular ribbing pattern would look. I knit it in the 4 to 6 month size. It is quite stretchy, so I think he'll get some good use out of this. But my plan was to have him wear this for Christmas. And there's this really cute like elfish type hat that I found a pattern for as well. I think it's a free pattern at that. But I think I want to make that to match this outfit. So I do have some leftover yarn, and I think he'll look like a really cute Christmas elf. So that's the plan for that outfit. And yeah, like I said, Petite Knits has a lot of like kid-sized patterns. I did also purchase the Moby sweater, which is a really beautiful cabled pullover. And I think I want to make that in the same colorway as the midwife blanket that I made. I decided not to do it just because I need a break from all the baby knits. There are a couple more things that I want to show you. So let's move on to the next thing that I made. And that was the Hazenmatz, I hope I'm saying that right, pants. And they're these really cute baggy pants. There were like 3 different pant designs that I found, and I believe all of them are free. They're in that collection that I linked below. I went with these because it seems to have a lot of diaper room. I knit these in the 4 to 7 month size, but again, I think these could be worn a little earlier. And if not, it can be used for quite a while since they're so stretchy and baggy. And I did make this with the Sauberball sock yarn. It's a fingering weight yarn in the colorway, what is the colorway? The colorway 1660. And I really, really love how these turned out. Like if I could make an adult size version of this, I would. I think they're super cool. I love these colors. I think these will be really awesome in the winter time, and it'll keep art really nice and cozy and warm. So this is the last thing that I made. It is the French macaroon pattern by Noble Thread, and it is also a free pattern. I ended up knitting this in a cotton yarn that I had purchased from Joann's. It's the Knit and Crochet Classics or Basics yarn. It's a worsted weight yarn, so I did have to slightly modify the pattern. The pattern itself calls for a DK weight yarn, so I ended up casting on and using the numbers for the newborn size, but then knitting to the length of the size up, which was 3 to 6 months, I believe. And I actually found this pattern really, really amazing. It's laid out very differently than other patterns that I'm accustomed to. I think the only other pattern that I found written in a similar manner was one of Jacqueline Cieslak's patterns. I believe it was, I forget, but it's like her t-shirt design that I made in the past. But basically the pattern is all in a chart. So on the columns are all the different sizes, and then on the left are all the instructions with like the actual numbers under the columns. So I found that visually stimulating. Like I really enjoyed it. I don't know what it is. Sometimes like just written text can feel a little bit overwhelming, where this chart just made it feel extra simple. It is a very simple garment though, another garter piece. So you work from the bottom up and you switch colors. I really love these colors that I chose. I knit this in Golden Coast and Sequoia, I believe are the two colorways that I used. And I just love the like 70s vibe of it. The back has a little buttonhole and button to just help get it over your baby's head. But overall, really like this. It is a bit on the stiffer side because it is cotton, but I don't really mind that. I think it'll be good for the season when he will be able to wear it. This ended up being around a size 3 to 6 month size. So yeah. So that is it for all of the baby knits that I completed. I am still working on another whip that I didn't get to finish, but I'm not really in a rush to finish it. It's another blanket. It's a chevron blanket, and I'm knitting it in Karen's Big Cakes. Forget the colorway, but it's really fun and colorful, and I wanted to make something that was a bit more funky since the other blanket that I made was such a classic and like kind of toned down design. I like fun, eclectic things, so I think this blanket would look really cute in the crib. But again, I'm not rushing to finish that since there's a lot of other projects I want to work on, and it's about to be MCAL season, so for the next like month I'm just going to be working on that. So we'll see when I actually finish that blanket, but that'll be in the future. And I do also want to make him another hat or two, and I want to make a crochet toy for him as well. So there will be more baby knits down the line, but that was everything I managed to finish before his arrival. So I'm pretty glad that I got basically an item for each category for the most part. And I think he's gonna look super cute in them. I'll make sure to take pictures. But yeah, that is it for this video. I will be back next week with my introductory video to Stephen West's Mystery Knit Along. It'll be the Go Go Dynamo this year. I'm really, really excited for that. I have my yarn ready. I still have to like do a gauge swatch, which I normally don't do, but I do want to see how the colors I picked work out together because I didn't go for a kit this year. So stay tuned for that next week. I'm super excited to be back. I know a lot of you guys found me also for the Mystery Knit Along last year. So if you are joining this year, let me know down below. It'll be really fun to make our projects together and keep each other updated. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you reaching the end. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and please like the video so that the algorithm can spit it out to more people. You can also find me on Instagram at Starseed Creations. Stay tuned for next week. Until then, stay crafty, happy making, and have a wonderful week. Bye.